Imagine waking up one day to discover that everything you do online, your searches, message, location, and personal preferences has been secretly sold to strangers without your knowledge. You never agreed to it, yet your private life has become a product. Today, we are discussing an important ethical case involving digital privacy and corporate responsibility. The case centers on a company that collects user data and secretly sells it to third parties without informing it to users or obtaining their consent. In today's digital world, personal data has become extremely valuable. Companies often collect information such as browsing habits, location data, and personal preferences to improve services or target. However, in this case, the company goes beyond acceptable practice by selling this data without transparency, raising serious ethical concerns. There are multiple stakeholders involved. First, the users, whose personal information is being exploited without their knowledge. Then, the employees and management of the company, who may be responsible for or aware of these practices. Advertisers benefit financially from access to this data, while government regulators are responsible for enforcing laws and protecting consumers' rights. The key fact in this case is that the company collected and sold users' data without explicit consent. This brings up a central ethical dilemma. Is it acceptable for a company to prioritize profit and business growth in this way, or is this a violation of user privacy and trust? This issue is especially relevant today as data protection laws and ethical standards are still evolving. Therefore, this case will allow us to explore different perspectives on privacy, consent, and corporate ethics, and to question where the line should be drawn between business interest and individual right. Mark, do you think profit can ever justify violating user privacy?
When looking at the situation, it helps to consider the potential benefits and the harm that could possibly happen. On the positive side, selling user data could generate revenue for the company. This revenue could support grow the business. It could create more job. It would allow the company to invest in improving its services. Also, it could indirectly like uh, benefits from better features or more efficient platforms funded by that revenue, so like the company. And but at the same time, there are some serious concerns to consider. Users are not aware that their data is being sold, which raises questions about privacy and trust. If people begin to feel that their personal information is being used without their consent, they may lose confidence in the company and over time, lose trust. The lost trust, sorry, could affect the company's reputation and user base. There are also broader risks. Once data is shared with third parties, it may be difficult to control how it is used. This could lead to unintended consequences, including misuse of personal information or harm to individuals. So, while the financial and practical benefits are clear, the potential impact on users and trust is also significant. The challenge is deciding when consequences carry more weight when considering the overall outcome. But now I have a question for Bshara is if he has considered the consequences for employees if the company loses profit by choosing not to sell to users.
Okay, so I believe this situation is clearly unethical when we look at it from a rights-based perspective. Every individual has a fundamental right to privacy, especially when it comes to their personal data. When users sign up for a service, they should trust the company with sensitive information like their location, preferences, and sometimes even their financial details. So, this creates a responsibility for the company to protect the data, not exploit it. Selling user data without consent, it directly violates this right because users are not given the choice to agree or refuse. It removes their control from their own information, even if the company argues that the data is being used for business growth or improving services. That does not justify ignoring people's basic rights. So ethical decisions should not only focus on outcomes, but also on whether the actions themselves respect individuals. Okay, so from this perspective, the key issue is not profit or efficiency, but respect for human dignity and autonomy. Users should always have full transparency and the ability to give informed consent before their data is collected or shared. So now I will ask Catherine, have you thought about whether this action could violate laws or regulations?
Yes, this could clearly violate data protection laws in many countries. Also, if the public finds out, the company's reputation could be severely damaged. Loss of trust could lead to long-term financial loss. Now, Sharbil, do you think making an exception here could create a dangerous standard for other companies?
This situation is fundamentally unfair to the users because they are not informed that their personal data is being sold. Fairness requires transparency and equal treatments. But in this case, the company benefits financially while users carry all the risk without any knowledge of or compensation. From a justice perspective, this creates an imbalance of power. The company has control over valuable information, while users are left vulnerable. Many users may not even have the technical knowledge to understand how their data is being used, which makes the situation even more unjust. Additionally, fairness is not only about outcomes, but also about the process. Even in the company, even if the company argues that not direct harm was done, the process itself is dishonest because it lacks informed consent. Ethical fairness requires that individuals have the right to make decisions about their own personal data. If every company behaved this way, society would lose trust in digital platforms, and people would become more cautious and stop sharing information or avoid using online services altogether. So, in conclusion, while selling users' data may bring short-term financial benefit, it raises serious ethical concerns regarding privacy, fairness, and trust. A more ethical solution would be transparency and asking for users' consent before collecting or selling data. Thank you.